Greetings, members, one and all of the Salivation Nation. This is the third time trying to do this video. You'll find out why later on in the video. I'm not showing you this whole page, and I'm going to show you all of the rest of what's the title of this particular article and the other news sources I have too. And I'll explain why that is later on too. I'm going to be very careful with my language as well. There's reasons for this. Now, this is quite an interesting story that was first released back in 2017 and goes back to public documents going back to 2016. But this is a fascinating venture down into an area that we've not heard talked about much as to why Gadaffi is no longer in power. In fact, why he is no longer on this earth. So this comes to us from keyafrica.com, and there's not very many other places where this is out there. And I'll actually post a link to both these articles in the description below because they're not seeing too many people talk about this as to why these declassified emails from Hillary Clinton has revealed that France wanted to maintain their financial stranglehold on African nations. That's right. Now, there's also some blame to be passed along to NATO for this, but we can talk about that from a geopolitical sense as well, too. But I think this basically keys in on France. They felt really threatened at the time. One of over 3,000 new Hillary Clinton emails released by the State Department on 2016 New Year's Eve contained damning evidence of Western nations using NATO as a tool to topple Libyan leader Muammar al-Gadaffi. And in fact, if we open up this link, this is from the New York Post on January 1st, 2016 that talks about this. So this is something that can be verified, and we'll look at that later. But it contains damning evidence of Western nations using NATO as a tool. The overthrow was not for the protection of the people, but instead it was to thwart Gaddafi's attempt to create a gold-backed African currency to compete with the Western central banking monopoly. The April 2011 email sent to Secretary of State Hillary by unofficial advisor and longtime Clinton confidant Sidney Blumenthal with the subject line, "France's client and Gaddafi's gold reveals predatory Western intentions." The email indicates the French-led NATO military initiative in Libya was also driven by a desire to gain access to a greater share of Libyan oil production and to undermine a long-term plan by Gaddafi to supplant France as a dominant power in the Francophone Africa region. That is interesting indeed. Let's actually take a look at the other story that links to the actual email here. The section delineating the huge threat that Gaddafi's gold and silver reserves estimated at 143 tons of gold and a similar amount of silver posed to the French franc, circulating as a prime African currency. Yes, indeed. Very interesting indeed. And here is the actual email itself from WikiLeaks, and here is the screenshot of that email. Very interesting indeed. This is from Sidney Blumenthal to Hillary Clinton on April 2nd, 2011. It says here, France's client, Gaddafi's gold. A high-ranking official on the National Libyan Council states that factions have developed within it. In part, this reflects the cultivation by France, in particular, of clients among the rebels. General Abdelfateh Younis is the leading figure closest to the French, who are believed to have made payments of an unknown amount to him. Younis has told others in the NLC that French have promised they will provide military trainers and arms. So far, the men and material have not made an appearance. Instead, a few risk assessment analysts wielding clipboards have come and gone. Jabril, Jalil, and others are impatient. It is understood that France has clear economic interest at stake. Sarkozy's, this is president of France at the time, occasional emissary, the intellectual self-promoter Bernard Henry Levy, is considered by those in the NLC who have dealt with him as a semi-useful, semi-joke figure. Number 2, rumors swept the NLC upper echelon this week that Gadaffi may be dead or maybe not. Gadaffi has nearly bottomless financial resources to continue indefinitely, according to the latest report we have received. On April 2nd, 2011, sources with access to advisors to Saud al-Islam Gadaffi stated in strictest confidence that while the freezing of Libya's foreign bank accounts presents Muammar Gadaffi with serious challenges, his ability to equip and maintain his armed forces and intelligence services remains intact. According to sensitive information available to these with individuals, Gaddafi's government holds 143 tons of gold and a similar amount in silver. Now think about this paragraph for a moment. In other words, freezing of bank accounts, sanctions has seriously provided disruption. But the thing is the resources of that which you cannot freeze, gold and silver. This is one of the best cases, by the way, for holding gold and silver in my view. It goes on to say, during late March 2011, these stocks were moved to Sabha, southwest in the direction of Libyan border with Niger and Chad, taken from the vaults of the Libyan Central Bank in Tripoli. The gold was accumulated prior to the current rebellion and was intended to be used to establish a pan-African currency, in other words, kind of like the Africa's version of the euro, based off the Libyan golden dollar. The plan was designed to provide the Francophone African countries with an alternative to the French franc. All right, well, there you go. In other words, a real currency backed by the dollar. Very interesting indeed. So there's where that is. And this article kind of talks about that and makes note that where this is going, and Pan-African based off the Libyan golden dollar. And it's, according to a knowledgeable individual, this quantity of gold and silver is valued at more than $7 billion. French intelligence officers discovered this plan shortly after the current rebellion began, and this was one of the factors that influenced President Nicolas Sarkozy's decision to commit France to the attack on Libya. Wow. And provides a peek behind the curtain to reveal how foreign policy is often carried out in practice. While reported in the media that the Western-backed Libyan military intervention was necessary to save human lives, the real driving factor behind the intervention was shown to be the fact that Gaddafi planned to create a high degree of economic independence with a new Pan-African currency which would lessen French influence and power in the region. There is a photo of Mr. Gaddafi, and the evidence indicates that when French intelligence became aware of the Libyan initiative to create a currency to compete with the Western central banking system, the decision to subvert the plan through military means began, ultimately including the NATO alliance. And that's where NATO comes in here. Now, NATO's motive, I don't know that necessarily we can question it as much as France's, but nonetheless, there's no good guys here. You know, it's obvious that Gaddafi was an opportunist. He was a dictator, not a good guy. There was a humanitarian problem, obviously. And but nonetheless, there's a financial too. Everything evolves around money and finances and interest, self-interest, and the like of all parties involved. But make no mistake, a gold-backed currency is a threat because it provides a level of value that cannot be denied. That is gold. And by the way, I make a mention here that also silver was also part of this. And I believe that Libyan leader Gaddafi accumulating almost as much silver in weight as gold, I think is another evidence that silver is indeed money, and silver could be used as another way to back up your currency as well. So desirable, very interesting indeed. And so these sources going back and showing this stuff, I think was interesting. And again, this is technically it's old news, but some of these articles have resurfaced and updated here. This one here is from November the 4th, 2018, globalresearch.ca. So I'll post a link to both of these articles in the description below so you can see all the language, some of which I've left out on purpose because YouTube has demonetized my previous attempts, and I can understand some of the reason why they do it, but some of it's automatic and flagging of these words, and one, when it was submitted for review, they confirmed it, because I don't think some of these reviewers, they're outsourced too in different areas and different cultures. There's actually a whole video about this, whole thing about this automatic policy by looking at titles and the words and not even checking out the content therein to see the references and the like. But nonetheless, there you have it. So that's why we have to be careful with the language, and this is my third attempt to upload this video. So there you go. Post your thoughts below, and as a reminder, for those of you, I do post videos every day, sometimes several times a day. And so if you don't get a notification, or it doesn't show up on your subscription feed or what have you, just feel free to stop back by the channel page itself, and you'll see the video there in due course. So I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for watching, and I encourage you to please rate and share this video. I think this is a message I think is quite important, especially considering how it has to do with events of the world and the like. Share this video as much as you can to get the word out. I think it speaks volumes of not only geopolitics, but also makes a strong case for gold and silver. And please rate, comment, and subscribe.